You wanted it, we are doing it. Let's chat about flange sizing and your breast pump. I did this video for you all about how to increase your breast milk supply, and in it I talked a lot about breast pumps, and I also mentioned that it is very important to have the right size flange attached to your breast pump to give you the best output of breast milk. And then you guys said to me, we would love a video all about flange sizing, how to measure, why it's important. So that is what we are doing right here and right now. And this is super different from when I had my babies. When I had my babies, you just opened up the box and you used whatever flange was attached to your pump. But here's what's up. Different manufacturers include different size flanges. For example, this one's a 28 millimeter. This guy right here is a 24 millimeter, and you'll probably find that it's the most common to end up with a 24 or a 25 millimeter flange. But here's a news flash.
Breaking news.
Most people are not a 24 millimeter flange, so let's go over how you can figure out what the best size flange for you is. My name is Tina B. If we haven't met yet, I am a labor and delivery nurse, and I do have a certification in perinatal nursing. Now, I am not an IBCLC, but I love breastfeeding and all things attached to breast milk, so let's get you some information on finding the right flange for you. The flange on your breast pump is the part that's actually coming into contact with your breast and your areola, and it looks very similar to a funnel. So on a traditional corded breast pump like this, it's gonna kind of look like this, a little bit long and a little bit skinny. And now there are lots of hands-free breast pumps on the market, so the flange, it might look a little bit different. It might look like this, a little bit less skinny and a little bit shorter, but nevertheless, it is going to look like a funnel. And when your breast pump is on and it is sucking, your nipple is actually going to be going in and out of this flange tunnel. Now, it is important to make sure that these fit correctly, because if they do not have the right fit, they can actually cause nipple damage, they can cause glandular damage, and they can actually cause you to produce less breast milk with each pumping session. Let's play around a Goldilocks. If your flange is too small, likely your nipple is going to be rubbing up against that flange tunnel, which could likely lead to some nipple damage. Ouch. And it can also lead to compressed breast tissue. And that compression in the tissue could lead to clogged ducts or mastitis, and that is awful to have to deal with, especially as a new parent. Now, if you're struggling with clogged ducts or you want some tips on how to relieve them, let me know in the comments. I am happy to make a video for you all about that. On the flip side, let's say your flange is too large. Now, instead of just the nipple going in and out of that flange tunnel, you probably also have areola and maybe even breast tissue if the flange is really too big. And that means that the suction you are getting from your breast pump is going to be less efficient and less strong. And if you have less efficient, less strong suction, you are likely emptying your breast less than you would if you had the better amount of suction. And if you are taking less milk out of your breast every time you pump, you are likely going to see a decrease in your breast milk supply. Because if you remember from this video, to make more milk, we need to remove more milk more often, and that is where your breast pump is needing to do that good work for you. Also, if your flange is pretty big, it could lead to some nipple swelling, and that is very uncomfortable as well. Guys, here are 5 ways you can tell that your flange size is probably not correct. First off, if you have nipple pain, that's a blaring red flag because pumping should not hurt. Second, when you're finished pumping, take a look at your breast. If you have any discoloration, purpleness, or redness of the nipple or the areola or the breast tissue, that flange size is causing issues. Next off, if you pump your breast but you still feel like you have breast milk in there despite giving it lots of time, the flange size is off, because a well-fitting flange and a well-functioning breast pump should be able to empty your breasts within about 20 minutes. Next, when you are pumping, take a look. If you see areola and breast tissue moving into that flange tunnel, that flange size is probably too big. And lastly, when you are pumping, if you notice any whiteness or blanching of the skin or the areola or the nipple, your flange size is causing you trouble. So to find your perfect flange size, you are actually going to be measuring your own nipples. There are varying schools of thoughts on when this measurement should be done. If you're going to ask me about it, I would wait until baby is here and I am actually going to be using the breast pump. I don't really see a point in measuring my nipples in pregnancy and then putting the flange on and being like, oh, this no longer fits me because my breasts have changed as my hormones have shifted. We know that pregnancy hormones, especially in that 3rd trimester, make everything a lot larger. Your breasts are not excluded in that. So I would wait until I'm ready to start pumping, and then I would measure and buy the appropriate flange size. What is really cool is that even though some of these come with their own manufacturer size of flanges, you can buy little inserts that are going to change the size of that flange to accommodate your nipples. Also of note, when you're talking about measuring, make sure you measure each nipple separately, because I don't know about you, but my nipples are definitely different sizes, so don't make the mistake of thinking that they are going to be the same, because you can actually buy flange inserts to change the size of each individual breast pump side. And you would be wise to maybe measure your nipples, I don't know, every couple of months to make sure that things aren't changing as your breastfeeding and your breast milk supply and your pumping journey moves on. Now let's get to the good stuff, actually measuring your nipple. To do this, you're either going to need a universal measuring tool, which you can purchase pretty inexpensively on Amazon, or some breast pumps come with their own nipple measuring tools, or you could raid the sewing kit and grab the old school measuring tape. And some people, they actually use coins. So they measure the width of the coin and they put it up against their nipple, and they use that as a rough estimate as to how big their nipple is. But when you do this, you want your nipple in sort of a naturally erect state. And what I mean by that is you don't want to have just fed your baby or just had a pumping session, because if you've ever been feeding your baby and you take them off and you look at your nipple, or you take your breast pump off and you look at your nipple, you can tell that the measurement that you would get then is much different from the measurement you would get before all that stimulation. So to measure your nipple, all you want to do is kind of gently roll your nipple in between your fingers to get it to stand up, or you can use ice, and then you are good to start measuring. And all you need to do is you need to take your nipple and you need to take your tool and you need to put the circle over your nipple that matches the best. And we talked earlier about how a lot of breast pumps come with a standard 24 millimeter flange size. I want you to look at something. If I put this 24 millimeter flange size on my nipple, you can see how much room there is all the way around the nipple. So this 24 would be way too big for this nipple. And you can actually start going down, and you can see that I'm gonna have to go down quite a bit to get one that fits. I can go all the way down to probably even 16 millimeters is still a little bit big. And if I put the 15 on there, that seems to fit just right. You don't want to be trying to shove your nipple through, that's too small, and you don't want to have a ton of room around your nipple. You want to go till it sort of fits just right. Another Goldilocks moment. If you're going to use the measuring tape, that is simple as well. You take your nipple, which we know is naturally erect, and you take your measuring tape and you line it up on the base. Remember to only include the nipple and not any of the areola. And you can see here my measurement is 1.5 centimeters, but our flanges, they come in millimeters. And all you're going to do is take your centimeter measurement and you are going to multiply it by 10. And I am going to get what I expected, 15 millimeters for this flange size. Different breast pump manufacturers, they have different rules on what size flange you'll end up in based on your measurements. But I would say this as a general rule. If you have less elastic nipples, you are probably okay to stay in whatever size flange you measure at. But if you have more elastic nipples, you will probably want to add on 2 millimeters to whatever measurement you ended up in. And if you're ever confused, you can always purchase a flange size and you can put it up to your nipple, and if all you can see in the hole is nipple and not a lot of areola, you know that that is a great fit for you at that time. You can see here when I put this up, you can still see areola around it, and that is because this is a 17 millimeter flange and I measured at 15. So maybe these nipples, they are more elastic than one might think. Here's the 3 things I want you to take away. Pumping should not hurt. When you are pumping, you should only see your nipple moving in and out. You should not see any areola or any breast tissue moving in and out of that flange tunnel, and you should be able to adequately empty your breasts within about 20 minutes. I hope you love this one. You know what to do. Give it a thumbs up. Check out this other video because there's probably something in there that you will find really interesting as well, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.